Now to continuing coverage of the week of planned protests against a future Atlanta public safety training facility. This afternoon, nearly 24 people faced a judge for the first time, charged with domestic terrorism after a protest at that site turned violent. And just hours ago, a group marched to Woodruff Park in downtown Atlanta, that group not wanting that facility to be built. Joe Ripley joins us now live from court in DeKalb County. So Joe, what are the next steps in these cases?
So tonight, a judge actually denied bond to 22 of the 23 people charged with domestic terrorism, as you mentioned, tied to Sunday's protests. 11 Alive obtained warrants for all 23 of those defendants, the bulk of which aren't even from Georgia, and the judge heavily considered that in her ruling today.
It has a maximum sentence of 35 years, which is serious. And the allegations here are serious. And
23 people standing virtually before a judge in DeKalb County this afternoon, all accused of domestic terrorism in connection with protests that turned violent Sunday near the site of the future Atlanta Public Safety Training Center.
This group changed their clothing into all blackout clothing, basically. They had shields that were like riot type shields, homemade shields. They had bags of rocks. They had fireworks. They had Molotov cocktails.
11 Alive obtained warrants stating up to 100 people were trespassing on private property, with some allegedly throwing Molotov cocktails, fireworks, rocks, and bricks at police officers. Eli Bennett, an attorney for one of those arrested, says the bulk of people, including his client, were there for a music concert, and the few details included in the warrants are vague.
Because the state has no evidence, no direct evidence, as Ms. Clark Palmer alluded to, that any of these individuals actually committed acts of violence.
Marlon Couts with the Atlanta Solidarity Fund says the organization is helping to pay legal fees for the protesters and is considering filing a civil lawsuit now against police.
Our mission is to defend the right to protest. So we believe that civil dissent and participation in public, popular movements is important constitutional right.
The protests have gained national attention. Only 2 of those charged are from Georgia, with the majority coming from across the country for the protests. They argue the building of a public training facility will further militarize police and disrupt the environment. Atlanta Police Chief Darren Shearbaum says he believes in people's First Amendment rights, but no one has the right, he says, to attack law enforcement officers. Only one defendant, a lawyer from the civil rights organization, the Southern Poverty Law Center, was actually granted bond by a judge today. He alleges he was simply a legal observer during Sunday's protests. Coming up at 6, share more on why, in spite of these mass arrests, protesters still say that their effort remains strong tonight.
Joe, thank you so much. And to read much more about these recent arrests and ongoing controversies surrounding the proposed training facility, head over to our website, 11alive.com.